banker. On his body was a fake passport and $15,000 cash. His pockets were stuffed with bricks. It appeared to be a murder, staged to send a message. But from whom? Some believe it was the mafia. Others suggest the symbolism was Masonic. The bricks in the pockets suggested stonemasons. The bridge where the body was found is close to the Masonic Grand Lodge of London. And even its name, Blackfriar, was the nickname for a secretive group to which Roberto Calvi belonged. An outlawed organization called Propaganda Due, or P2. And P2 had been a lodge of the Freemasons. British journalist Rupert Cornwell was in Rome back then, working for the Financial Times.
I'm Rupert Cornwell, and I'm not a Freemason. When Calvi was discovered, the reaction was just amazement. The circumstances of the death were just people could not believe it.
Roberto Calvi had risen through the ranks of Italy's banking industry to become chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, one of Italy's largest private banks, with ties to the Vatican that earned Calvi the nickname God's Banker. But weeks before his death, Calvi had appeared in court about the disappearance of $1.4 billion from his bank.
My name is Conrad Garringer, and I am not a Freemason. Basically, what was going on was vast amounts of money were being laundered through Banco Ambrosiano, shipped overseas to Latin America and other offshore banking points, and then disappearing.
Within days of the discovery of Calvi's body, British police ruled the death a suicide, a finding many thought to be a cover-up.
The circumstances, of course, were quite bizarre. Would a person commit suicide by hanging themselves when he had to walk down quite a complicated set of steps and then climb out onto the scaffolding to do this?
Later inquiries showed the injuries to his neck were inconsistent with hanging, and that he hadn't touched the bricks in his pockets. And at the time of death, the point on the bridge where the rope was tied could be reached by someone standing in a boat. Rupert Cornwell personally met with Calvi 2 months before his death.
He looked like a man who was under extreme pressure. This was a man who was frightened, who was hunted, and who was, I think, aware that the end probably wasn't that far off.
Calvi was reputedly a member of the P2 Lodge. I'm John Hamill, and I'm a Freemason. P2 was a lodge under the Grand Orient of Italy. It was taken over by a man called Licio Gelli, who suddenly began to run the proper lodge, which was regularly registered as it had to be under Italian law, but he was also behind it running a clandestine lodge.
P2 was established in 1877, and it was a very traditional Italian Freemason lodge. However, in the 1960s, it was taken over by Gelli, and when Gelli infiltrated the organization, it became a Freemason lodge with an agenda.
Roberto Calvi was Catholic, and the church has long denounced Freemasonry. So why would he become a member of the P2 Lodge?
I suspect that Calvi was attracted to P2 because it offered him business opportunities, because it satisfied his interest in the idea of hidden power.
His son, Carlo, was 28 at the time of his father's death.
My father did not entirely participate in these things because of his own free choice. What happens is that the bank had grown. In order to do that, they had to keep contacts with the politicians. The P2 Lodge was sort of an intermediary of these politicians, so it was more of a constraint than an act of free will.
There's evidence, I think, that Banco Ambrosiano was loaning money to P2 and serving as a paymaster for some of the people connected with Gelli.
An investigation blew the scandal wide open. It was claimed that Gelli wanted Calvi out of the way for embezzling money. But some believe the plot didn't end with embezzlement. The theatrical nature of Calvi's death, the symbolism, authorities calling it a suicide, and the fact that the scheme was conducted within the P2 Lodge made some wonder if there was something more sinister going on.
Licio Gelli compiled a list of several hundred people that he targeted. There's evidence that he was involved in blackmailing, using pilfered files from the Italian secret services. And he had a plan to basically remake the Italian government along more authoritarian lines.
This is the secret world Roberto Calvi had entered.
He was actually joining not just a secret society, but a secret society with a very real agenda and a very real conspiratorial agenda to actually seize control of the Italian state.
But some claim this was a Masonic scheme.
I'm Jim Mars, journalist, author, and I'm not a Mason. And basically, this was an attempt by a Masonic lodge to take over a modern country and create a right-wing dictatorship.
This theory says the plan didn't end with Italy.
In the subsequent court cases, you had mysterious deaths, you had accusations of the involvement of George Herbert Walker Bush and Henry Kissinger and the CIA and the Vatican Bank. It was just a whole little ball of wax. So don't think that everyone who questions what's going on within Freemasonry is just a conspiracy theorist. This was a conspiracy that was very well documented.
Was Calvi's death merely the tip of an iceberg? A glimpse into a world of conspirators, Freemasons, plotting to overthrow a free government and control an entire country. Why would they do this? Who are they? And why do they invoke such fear and suspicion? As it turns out, charges like these have been leveled against the Freemasons for centuries. Freemasonry began with the stonemason guilds of medieval England, Scotland, and France. Their trade secrets made them valued artisans in the construction of castles and cathedrals. Secret handshakes and other signals were used to identify men as members of the craft. Skilled stoneworkers known as operative Freemasons. By 1700, they had evolved into a progressive gentleman's club and were called speculative Freemasons. Their order grew and spread from England to Europe to America. Masonic lodges established rites of initiation, and they kept their activities secret. But what are these secrets? What is their ultimate purpose? Would people kill to protect them? For the first time, cameras have been allowed inside a Masonic temple to record rituals that have been hidden for centuries. Rites based upon a story that links Freemasons to nothing less than the builders of Solomon's Temple. And to another brutal murder that took place 3,000 years ago. There are 5 million Freemasons in the world today. But who are they? They're known for their charity work, their elaborate temples, and their arcane symbols. But what they may be best known for is secrecy. Much of it centered on initiation rites into the 3 degrees of Freemasonry. Entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. These rites go back 300 years, steeped in symbolic meaning. They've also been associated with dark agendas and, some claim, ritual murder.
Then die.
A shadowy cult established to protect ancient secrets is the premise of Dan Brown's bestseller, The Da Vinci Code, which features a hidden truth